everyone and to all. Welcome back to episode 2 of Capital Interns. Our podcast essentially tries to help high school students, first years or second years, to find a path or pave a path forward for them for their career. Unlike other podcasts, we focus on their passions, their post-secondary life, and their personal experience, rather than just work experience. So, I'm done my part for now, so I'm going to hand it over to Dorina.
Hey guys, welcome back to episode 2. Today's guest is someone Rafid and I have known for a while. We've been in the same classes as him, and we've worked with him on the same executive team for IEEE Carleton, a student society. He's an inspirational leader. He's won Chair of the Year in 2019, and he's currently doing his second internship as a software developer at Irdeto in Ottawa. He is in his last year of computer systems engineering at Carleton, and other than being passionate about tech, he's a writer pursuing a minor in math and philosophy. Most of all, he's someone who is always ready to help out others. Let's welcome Ahmed Sakr.
Hi, thank you for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be here.
No worries, thank you for being here. On today's episode, we're delving into Ahmed's passion for both hardware and software, his projects involving investment, and his journey pursuing philosophy.
Alright, so now we're going to start at the beginning. So at 17 years old, Ahmed, you graduated from high school in Saudi Arabia and moved to Ottawa all by yourself, and you didn't even have your parents with you, and that's really a scary thing. I can't imagine me moving to a different country without my parents. And you started here at Carleton University, so that's a really big move, and there's obviously a lot of challenges that comes towards that. Do you want to elaborate on those challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was definitely scary for a 17-year-old me. I think the biggest challenges when I first landed was, my parents are not there and I had to fend for myself. It took some time to getting adjusted to, but thankfully school didn't start for 2 more months. So I just took it slowly and, I learned how to cook, how to do laundry, and how to make new friends. Because again, whole new world for me.
Did you experience culture shock when you were, when you came to Canada? Because I know a lot of people who come from Asian countries get a huge culture shock when they get here. Whether it may be the weather, or maybe the traditions, or maybe the clothing lines that are here. It's a huge culture shock for a lot of people. So I'm just wondering if you actually experienced that.
Yeah, I think I was in a unique position where my culture shock, if you will, was kind of minimized because growing up I was in a westernized school and I consumed Western media on TV and online. But I think what you mentioned about the weather, especially moving to Ottawa, was very interesting. Before coming to Ottawa, the lowest temperature I've experienced was around 0 degrees Celsius, and then suddenly it was minus 40 something here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was difficult for sure, yeah.
Minus 30, yeah. I can relate to that. It's honestly, I still can't get used to the weather here. I wish it was 20 degrees at least every day.
Yo, just live on your island, okay?
I wish, seriously. If I could buy my own island and travel whenever I could, I would definitely be there. Speaking of culture, when we talked about your perspective on the differences, you mentioned that being here has helped you gain new insights on religion and your approach towards it. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Just coming to Canada, I was exposed to a diverse variety of people. Everyone's from different cultures, and there's hundreds of different nations. I saw people's different life viewpoints, and I think it made me reflect on how I viewed life. So I think now, compared to 5 years ago when I moved here, I think I'm a bit more, skeptical of the things that I was raised with, and I'm more inclined to, look for more evidence. I'm more inclined to, see something from my eyes and experience it.
When you came to Ottawa, you lived with your brother, and you started in software engineering at Carleton. What were some of the hardest things you went through while being on your own, whether it was at home with your brother or even at school as a first year?
Yeah, I think it's just keeping the motivation to, study, do laundry, cook, etc. while you're away from your family and, everything that you're used to. It was a bit hard for the first few months. I was definitely homesick. And at some points I'd always, be like, why did I even come to Canada? Why didn't I just stay with my family? It would have been easier. So I think those, negative thoughts that I had at the beginning were the hardest part. But once I overcame them and I settled down more in Canada and made more friends, I feel like that big burden was taken away from me.
How long do you feel that that burden was off your shoulders?
I think
how long did it take to get off your shoulders?
Yeah, I think it took pretty much the first semester. So I think around December or January, I think I got a bit more accustomed to it because my family visited me over the Christmas break of that December. So I feel like it just reassured me that, I'll be fine.
What did you cook? What was the one thing that you always cooked when you came here?
Oh my God. This is not really a tip to anyone.
Was it ramen?
It's not really a tip to anyone
noodles.
listening. No, it was the first thing I did was fry a lot of chicken nuggets.
Yes.
I do not recommend this to anyone listening. I'm pretty sure that was the turning point for frying stuff for me.
God.
I don't fry a lot of things anymore because I fried so much stuff.
Oh my
God.
Oh my God. Damn. And now you're vegetarian. Damn.
Yeah, I only tried that for a few months. It's not really a thing that I'm still in. Yeah.
It didn't work out. You were missing the meat.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of tried it because I mean, I kind of feel bad for eating meat. Even still now, I feel like my ideology is still that we shouldn't be eating meat, even though I do it. It's kind of weird, but I'm trying to wane off. I feel like I have reduced my meat consumption after that period where I went full, cold turkey vegetarian. So,
you mentioned that your high school curriculum was very stressful to me one time during the IEEE office. Can you tell us a little bit more about how stressful it was and what you mean by a very strict curriculum?
Yeah, I always think of this in terms of the experiences I've heard here in Canada. So for example, in my high school, we had almost 8 tests per week, and that was for the whole year. So I was always juggling from one test to the other. I'd never get a break. And then other than that, our curriculum was very advanced. So it was all AP, which stands for Advanced Placement. So I was studying essentially first year university level stuff. So, and that was in grade 11. So I was oh my God, it was very intense that way.
Yeah, that's honestly really intense, and I can't imagine doing that because I know that one AP physics course is enough for even the smartest students here. So doing all AP courses is on another level. Do you think it prepared you better for first year overall?
Oh yeah, absolutely. My first year was a joke because I did that high school, honestly. I remember in first year taking a full week off just on my own time because I was you know what, I don't really need to attend classes. So there was definitely some benefits there.
Mm-hmm. You went on a vacation basically.
Yeah.
Reading week.
Exactly.
What'd you do?
Honestly, I just didn't really travel. I just stayed home and played games. It was I needed a video game vacation.
Yeah, that's healthy.
Yeah.
I know.
Speaking of high school, tell us about the math competition that you were in 6th grade, where the other team cheated.
Oh yeah, I'm still really salty about that. But yeah, I was really very fast at mental math, and so the school formed a team for mental math, and then there was an intramural kind of thing with different schools with math. So we were all one hall, all the schools, and then the home school where the competition was happening at were just cheating, and then the referees or whatever, the math referees, were not really doing anything, and it was just making me angry, and then they ended up winning. So yeah.
Pulls up Wolfram Alpha.
I'm not sure if Wolfram Alpha existed back then. That must have been 2006 or something, or 2007.
Oh shit!
Yeah, that was in grade 6. I'm old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
Did you participate again after that?
In a competition, no. I mean, I told you I'm still salty about that. I hope that one day I'm gonna get justice for that math competition. Still holding out.
I hope the teammates are listening.
Yeah, me too. Hey, if you're out there, meet me.
So your passion for learning so quickly, I've found, is really impressive. I remember in computer communications when I took the same course with you, and I was really impressed of how quickly you're able to like capture material and actually understand it. Because it would take me 1 hour to learn something that would take you like 15 to 20 minutes. So I think a lot of high schoolers would benefit this. So what are some tips you have for learning how to learn quickly?
I think honestly, just looking back at all of my experiences and knowledge, I think the thing that has helped me the most is making sure that I never skip a concept, especially basic concepts. And this is really important to you high schoolers that are listening. I know like sometimes it's easier to just, say like, I'm never going to see this again. But trust me, you're going to see it again. I remember like in grade 9 geometry class, I was like, I'll never see this again. And then fast forward to second year and I was like, oh my God, I should have paid attention in geometry class. So I think my recommendation to everyone listening is if you want to be a fast learner, get your basic knowledge straight. Like make sure you reiterate 10 times even the simplest concepts. Look at different websites, watch YouTube videos, ask your friends how they think of it. All of these different channels are going to help reinforce your ability to learn more complex stuff. So I think this is really the main channel of how I think I can learn stuff fast. It's not because, I'm a genius or anything. I think it's just because of my foundations, especially like we talked about my strict high school, like I had to study a lot. I think my foundations are just really strong, and that's why I feel like I can learn quickly.
That's really great advice, because I know like I struggled doing that like after second year, because I knew because university picks up a lot from third year, and yeah, I really struggled. Thank God for SAT, but I really struggled. I really struggled at that point because there was so much material coming at me, and I wasn't able to pick it up quickly. So yeah, I really reiterate that get your foundations like solid, and you could build on a lot quicker from doing that, rather than just like glossing over and just hoping for the best for one test.
Absolutely.
What about your study style? How do you study?
Yeah, I think my study style is pretty, unique in that whenever I hit a wall, for example, with one material, I just take a break from that, but I move on to another material. So I kind of do some context switching, I lost some productivity here. It doesn't mean I should give up and, just go watch Netflix or something. I will just switch over setting to another topic. And I find that helps me, refresh on the other topic that I just quit for a bit, subconsciously. And then the one that I'm currently doing, in the foreground, the new topic, I find that, I can make progress here and then switch back and then keep switching until, I make progress in all of the tasks. I found, especially in university, this helped a lot because you'll see at points in your semester there's 6 midterms in 1 week, and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? And I felt that this strategy really helped me the most.
I can actually confirm that it works. I tried it out when I was writing content for this episode. So every time I was blocked, I would just keep going on another section. So yeah, I can definitely say that it really helps. Ahmed, so you're someone who has always been there to help others. We've worked with you on the executive team, and throughout your IEEE journey, we've seen the impact of your contribution. You've been a mentor to students and also through your teaching assistant job at the university. What was your motivation for joining the student society and contributing to it?
Yeah, I think I started, when I first got introduced to IEEE, I was like, okay, I'm in first year. I really never imagined my university experience to just be going to lectures. I want to do something extracurricular. And I felt that IEEE was a society that was appropriate for my time. So I was like, okay, I'll join, get to know some people, see what they do. And I got really hooked from there, from all the events that they do. And I decided to stay.
Yeah. You actually volunteered for multiple positions in IEEE Carleton, and it's honestly an incredible journey from leading a charity land called Battle Royale to being chair of the entire student branch. Can you talk a little bit about your experiences of IEEE? Like, what did you learn along the way during your IEEE
It's
journey?
a long journey. I think it started back in
4 years.
Yeah, it's been 4 years, right?
Yeah.
No, 5 years.
Yeah, I think it was 4 years. Actually, maybe 5 years if you count the co-op gap year. I did, yeah. But yeah, good question. Because I really do think every experience gave me a different, set of experiences and knowledge. Like starting with Battle Royale, for instance, I think that was the first time I ever led a, medium-sized event of 100 people. So it was very interesting, logistics, and then up to the day of the event, seeing what goes wrong in the heat of the moment, how to improvise, how to make people happy. I think those are all really good, solid experiences. And then, fast forwarding to becoming treasurer of the branch, I feel like I learned a lot of, obviously, finances, but also how to set people's expectations financially, right? Because there's different stakeholders, and, I want to host this event, I want to host that event. And you're like, well, you know what? I know everyone you want to do this and that, but it might not keep us in a good financial position next year, right? So I didn't want to restrict people, so I tried to be as accommodating as possible, but at the same time, I obviously had to think of the financial health of the branch. And then moving forward to chair, which just was this past year, it was very interesting because, as chair, you kind of have to do almost everything on a high level. So I kind of learned a lot about conflict resolution, for instance, during the team. And I also tried to focus a lot on keeping people motivated, keeping people appreciated, keeping the team just running smooth, essentially.
What are some of your big takeaways that you got of that experience in terms of leadership for the branch?
Yeah, I think the big takeaway, honestly, is that, again, like, never settle. I'm stealing the slogan from OnePlus. Don't tell them. But I think
settle.
Yeah, I really like the slogan. It's very concise. But yeah, again, please don't tell them. I don't want to get sued. So yeah, I think it's important that, you set your goals, you try to achieve your goals, but then once those goals are achieved, if they are achieved, that's not the end, right? You're always supposed to be like, okay, we did this, so how can we do the next one? And how can we, you have to query also all the executive team and tell them, what are your goals? You have to understand what their goals are so you can align your goals with them as well, right? So I think that was a big takeaway. I think it was, how can you keep doing a lot and always striving to do more?
I definitely agree with that because of the fact that, especially in leadership, it's an iterative process. You don't stop at just one point because there's always going to be different people, there's always going to be different situations, and there's always going to be different aspects you need to consider about where your organization is going. So I definitely agree with the motto "Never settle," especially because I want to iterate this one point is that as a leader, you were actually recognized as Branch of the Year by your executive team. It wasn't an award that was done every year. It was the first time that this ever happened. But you started the Exec of the Month initiative, and then later on, the team felt that you deserved something because you've done such a great job, and it was like kind of a sin to not show the appreciation back of all the efforts you've shown. So the branch and everyone else, including me and Darina, we all pitched in and tried our best to make you feel appreciated. And I think that's the one thing that a leader can take out, saying that yes, I was a successful leader. Because if your team thinks that you were successful, and leadership is revolved around how people's perception works, that is probably the most outstanding achievement I can possibly think of. And I'm sure other students want to emulate that kind of leadership as well, and high school student entrepreneurs. Can you explain some of your skills that students can develop right now in terms of a leadership position?
Yeah, I think the viewers are in high school. I think what you could do right now to put yourself on a solid foundation is to develop your personal, interpersonal skills. Like technical skills are like things that you can acquire later on in university. But I think it is important that your interpersonal skills are trained and used early on. So for example, in high school, you have a lot of opportunities for volunteering, run for some president of a club, do whatever you want, get to interacting with people, because that's things that will set you ahead of the curve when you get to university, right? People love someone with experience. They love someone that is knowledgeable of what to do. People love confidence too, right? People want to see you say like, yes, I've done this before. I know how I can move us to this XYZ position. Because a lot of the times, and especially in university, we're all doing it for the first time, right? So I think if you want to get ahead, definitely train your interpersonal skills.
Absolutely. I think that's a great tip, honestly. Having worked with you on the team, I think me and Rafi can both agree that you are someone that has always had a calm and collected exterior, even when we had to deal with a lot of challenges, especially you as the chair.
Yeah.
What's your strategy for staying calm and collected when facing those challenges?
Yeah, that's something I also had to work on during, being a chair. I think my strategy is always, and I've heard this from a stress management course before that I've taken. It's always kind of sleep on something, right? Bad stuff happens. Don't react to it. Don't get bad news and then send an angry email. Don't get bad news and then, just scream at someone. Always, take your time, maybe sleep. There's also something called a 24-hour rule. Whenever you get bad news, wait 24 hours before acting decisively, because that gives you time to calm down, get your emotions, stabilized, and then rationally think about it. So these are like some strategies that I'm used to stay calm and, just realize that some bad things are out of your control. Actually, a lot of bad things are out of your control. Don't get mad because things are happening. What you should focus on is like, okay, this thing happened. How can I make the best outcome out of it? And I think that's what I did when I was, a chair of the IEEE branch.
Yeah, I have like a personal story with that, because like I remember that at the time, like my organization was really good. Just my stress management at the time wasn't on par. But then after like we talked about some of the issues that I was facing, I felt like afterwards I realized I need to work my stress management, and I think that later on the day of SPAC, everything was like up in flames and everything. But you know what? I just took it in, and I was like, okay, this happened. I'm not gonna worry about it. I'll handle it somehow in some way. Just give me 5 minutes to think about it. So I really emulate with that advice.
Absolutely. I think every leader will eventually be in a position like that, and what makes you different is how you react.
Absolutely good advice, especially for the workplace too, because part of being professional is knowing how to react to something and knowing not to let your emotions get in the way. So that's definitely something that anyone can work on while they're still in high school. I find that sometimes it can be intimidating to join a club, especially when you're new and you're just starting first year, or even if you're just starting high school, and even just running for an executive position. What tips do you recommend for a student who's feeling nervous about stepping out of their comfort zone?
Yeah, I feel like I can resonate with this one. Is like I only joined IEEE the second semester of first year. I was kind of anxious of joining a club in my first year. It's like, oh my God, what if I don't do well in school? What if I, don't hang out with my friends, etc. Something that you should tell yourself is that no matter how much you take on, I've always felt that you can manage it. So as long as you set your expectations and, you just coordinate and have some time management, you'll be fine. And in terms of being anxious of, if you're potentially anxious of going to a club because, what if they don't like me, or what if I don't fit? What if I'm, not going to be good on the team? Like, first of all, it's not like a life commitment. You're not signing a contract. You're not walking in and there's like contracts on the table saying like, hey, you're committing for 2 years. And none of that is happening. So just go there and just remember that people there are there for the same reasons that you are. They want to make friends, they want to get experience, and they want to make their time worth it.
Yeah, I kind of agree. It's not, I think that's something I always have to remind myself of. It's not a life or death situation, you know? If it doesn't work out, it's okay. Life goes on.
Yes.
It's not like I'm going to fall off a cliff if I go into it.
Agreed.
Other than, your extracurriculars, you've also been a TA, teaching assistant at Carleton. And I know you're one of the ones that actually put effort into it and you actually care. Why do you TA?
Yeah, I really TA to kind of like make a difference and inspire other teaching assistants to also make a difference. Like you just kind of alluded to, is a lot of teaching assistants really don't care that much. And I personally really think, and I've seen this in motion, that a bad TA can really impact your education, your perception of courses, even your perception of your career. So I think when you become a TA, you have an obligation to be a good role model and to give as much as you can back to the students, right? Because I've been fortunate to have some good professors that shaped the way that I think of the career. So I kind of want to perpetuate that cycle to other new students. So I find it personally satisfying to be a TA, and I also find it really nice, just like as a side note, like 3 years later when I TA'd someone, I see them just walking by and they still recognize me. They're like, hey, I'm like, hey, and I know in my mind, I'm like, oh my god, I TA'd them, and look, they're almost graduating. I just find it rewarding.
Yeah, that's so cool. Do you have any stories of, when you've received positive feedback from the students that you've TA'd before?
Yeah, I have a couple. Yeah, I've again, like same outline. I saw someone I TA'd 3 years ago, and he was just about to graduate, even before me, which is kind of ironic. But it was just cool. Like he was just telling me, like, that he liked me as a TA, and then he went on doing stuff that was related to the material that I TA'd him for. So it was really nice, like seeing the direct link there that, because I helped him. Because I remember him in the lab, struggling with the material, and I'd spend more time with him just to make sure that he gets it. And it's just really nice to see that it works and it does change people's lives.
I absolutely agree. Especially when your TAs and your pros actually put effort and care about how things are going for the class. It really does make a difference. Let's talk a bit about your career. One of your current passions is investment. Why is the interest in it?
Yeah, I kind of acquired this passion a few years ago. I don't know, I kind of just thought of this concept of equity. That's something that really interested me. We are all familiar with the concept of work. You go to work for 8 hours, you get paid a certain wage, but that's it. That 8 hours you just worked is never going to benefit you other than that money that you got, right? But with investment, you build equity. You put money, and then that money works for you for years and years to come without any extra effort from you. So I think that was kind of an interesting, point for me to get started in investment, and I find that it's applicable everywhere too. As humans, we're equities in a way, right? Like you go to college to train yourself, you go to you volunteer to train yourself, and then eventually you're an employee that's worth $50,000 a year or whatever, right? That's because your equity is now worth that much money. So yeah, I think it's applicable to a lot of areas in life.
I like that explanation. It's very simple. We want to learn more about your Wealthsimple API, the project that you made. Can you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, just for the viewers, API stands for Application Programming Interface, and just in simple terms, what it is, it's just a fancy term for, hey, I give you this data, you get back this data. That's all it is, right? So Wealthsimple is an investment company in Toronto, and what I did is I built an API that talks to their servers to place orders, get orders, and do all that stuff automatically. So that's what the API wrapper is, in essence.
How long have you actually worked on it?
Yeah, I mean, the initial version, it only took me 3 days. It wasn't that difficult of a task, and then I kept working on it for a few months, and I'm still working on it right now.
Yeah, I know like a lot of these types of open source contributions really stand out, and I was wondering like how the community actually reacted within the stock or investment industry. I heard that the API wrapper that you built did garner some attention. Do you want to describe a little bit more what happened?
Yeah, when I first built it, I honestly never expected that it'd get this much attention. I was like, I want to have an open source project that helps people with whatever projects they want to work with. But then it quickly got attention because it's kind of one of its own kind in Canada specifically. So yeah, I got a lot of attention from people interested. They started using it a lot. I started getting interest in people want to contribute and help out. And that's been a great experience as well. And then after that, actually, the director at Wealthsimple reached out to me and told me that he's also, he really likes that I did this. And then we had a chat and, we just discussed the investment industry and, technology in Canada, etc. So that's been a really cool experience. Like, you start a project and something happens that you never expected.
Yeah, exactly. That's an excellent experience. I think a lot of high school students can actually use that experience to have that as an advantage for networking, because it's such a great networking topic as well. Like networking with your passion, like that is one key thing I've learned, is that if you can network with your passion, if you have a project that actually shows it, like you'll stand out miles ahead from the competition when you're approaching someone on LinkedIn or like a networking event.
Absolutely.
And I just wanted to talk about investment, which has been a hobby of yours for a while. But I know it's like really stressful to manage day to day. And I want to know how you keep up with the stock market as a student, quickly and effectively.
Yeah, it's kind of just like a hobby for me. So like, it's not like I have to sit down on the table and spend an hour or whatever. It's like, it's one of those things that I just keep up with, on the toilet or, if I was busing, no one's busing right now during COVID. And like, some days I don't look into it too much, but, usually I do research it almost daily. So it's not that stressful for me, but it definitely is a broad topic. So I can see how it can be overwhelming for people.
I see. Speaking of investment, have you ever gone in debt before? If so, like, how is that lifestyle different, and how did you actually manage that and overcome that?
Yeah, I was in debt, I think, in second year, and it's pretty common for a student. I don't like being in debt. I'm sure everyone agrees the same. It's not a nice feeling when you owe someone money, right? So fortunately, my first few years did receive financial support from my parents, and that kind of helped me kick off to co-op and TAing, where I started generating my own sources of income. So once I started doing co-op and TAing, I was able to actually pay back my personal debt, and now that's how I don't have debt right now, and it's honestly a great feeling.
Do you have any tips for students to like minimize their expenses in the future? Yeah,
like you're young. Don't stop living your life because I want to save every penny. On the opposite, like, please don't do that. You will regret it later in life. You should still have fun, but be responsible still. You can have a moderate stance. You can go partying with your friends, but don't do it every day because alcohol is expensive. You'll find out. Be moderate. I think being moderate, specifically with finances, will put you in a good position, right? You have to find your balance of, I want to live my life, and at the same time, I don't want to be in crippling debt.
What stocks are you currently investing in, and how frequently do you keep up with it?
So currently, I don't have individual stocks. I have something called an exchange-traded fund, or ETF for short. What it is, essentially, it's like a bag of thousands of stocks that some directors manage, and then you can buy a share of it. So, like, its purpose is to minimize your risk and diversify you. So essentially, the ETF that I'm holding is the broad market. So essentially, I have some shares in like the energy sector, the technology sector, the consumer sector, et cetera. You'll see as you get into investing, you want to minimize your risk because, for example, if you put all your money in Tesla and then Tesla goes down 50% tomorrow, then you're lost 50%, right? So that's what I'm personally holding.
What do you think are some stocks that are considered safe and good return?
Yeah, again, like with the same rationale, holding individual stocks will make you a higher risk investor. So if you're someone that is totally okay with higher risk, your investment horizon is for 40 years from now, maybe it's not a bad idea to invest in Tesla, because they might be a huge company in 40 years, but there's still a risk, right? What if Tesla goes bankrupt? So personally, what I recommend is for safe and return, do ETFs. The things that I just mentioned that I'm holding is because that's almost guarantees that you'll never lose all of your money, because you're essentially invested in thousands and thousands and thousands of stocks, and it is good return over 40 years, which is how long until you retire.
So what were some of the resources you used to get started with investing, and how should a high schooler start today?
So the resources I did honestly was first curiosity. I wanted to learn more about it, so some of the resources I've used is Udemy. So Udemy has some good courses on it, and then there's also this good website called Investopedia. So like Wikipedia, but Investo instead. So it's called Investopedia, and then it has tons and tons of documentation on investments and so forth. And then if you actually want to start investing, 2020 is a great time for you to start investing when you turn 18. Wealth Simple Trade, the company that we mentioned earlier, the one that I did API wrapper, they have a zero commission trading app. So essentially you can put $50, you're not going to pay any commission, and you can just start playing with just $50.
Thanks for explaining it that way. I feel like it's super simple, instead of if you were to read it in a complicated book.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Other than investment, one of your other passions is tech. You're in computer systems engineering. Why do you think more people should be involved in embedded systems?
I feel like the general perception of embedded systems that, oh my god, resistors, capacitors, I don't want to get there. But the general embedded systems market is kind of abstracted away from that. You deal with hardware components that are, already created for you, and then you can work on some really cool applications, make a pacemaker for people's hearts, or, even work on a phone. iPhones are embedded, Android phones are embedded. You could even work on chips that go in cars. You can work on chips that go in airplanes. You can work on ATMs, bank ATMs. Embedded applications are huge. And they're everywhere, right? You can work on keyboards. You could do anything. So I just think because people's perception of resistors, capacitors, I don't want to deal with that. I feel like people stray away from opportunities that they might like otherwise. So
yeah, I kind of agree on what you said about their take on it, because, for example, we don't realize even your refrigerator is an embedded system.
Yeah, a lot of people think that's all algorithms.
Exactly.
Web dev. It's just software engineering.
Exactly.
But there's a lot more to software engineering than just or even computer engineering than just web dev and resistors. There's a middle ground too.
Yeah. Exactly.
What are some simple embedded systems projects or resources available that can get anyone started?
Yeah, so for resources, there's tons online. So there's, you can look at a forum called All About, I think, resistors or something. If you just Google Raspberry Pi forums as well, there's tons and tons of resources online. There's a lot of YouTube videos, so there's a huge community backing embedded development. And again, 2020 is a great time still to get into it. Yes, embedded development hobbies might be expensive compared to software development, because you have to buy a board, you have to do that, etc. What I recommend is just borrow it from a makerspace, or ask your friend to lend you their board. And that's how you can minimize your costs and start learning.
That's actually excellent advice. Otherwise, is even going to the university and straight up asking one of the professors or the school administration for one. I'm sure they have some kind of renting capacity that's efficient or cheap or even possibly free. And now, since we were talking about the resources for embedded systems, I want to jump over to open source software because that was something that you've been working on for the Web Simple API. But we didn't actually really talk about what open source software is. So I want you to explain that, and how can you actually start to find these open source projects to contribute towards?
Yeah, I think like many things in your career, the step 0 is know your passion. So for me, the way I started contributing to Well Simple Trade API is because I had that investment passion, right? The one that we just talked about. So find your passion. If your passion is in biomedical field and you like creating devices for people, you might find an open source software that's like for Neuralinks. You've probably heard of Elon Musk's Neura network company. So there's a lot of room for open source contribution there. I don't think, like personally, my mantra is no one develops for the sake of developing, right? So know what you're interested in, and then from there you can find open source contributions. You can even just Google it.
I definitely agree with that. Like one of my passions was like scheduling, because I'm really organized like that. So I remember, and I still am doing this, I'm contributing towards Microsoft Power Planner, which is a scheduling app, and I'm having a great time doing that because one, I got experience working on an actual Microsoft product, and two, I'm doing something that I know is going to impact thousands of users, and also myself. Like it makes it like I'm making something that could be useful for myself.
Oh, that's very cool.
Having worked in the workplace on like a regular development team and having worked on open source software, what are the differences that you found?
Between open source software and development teams, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Open source software would take longer from the nature of the game, which is open source, right? It's because, you're working with people you've never seen before, you've never interacted with before, and everyone has their lives. So like, for example, like it took me and this one person working on this API wrapper over 2 months to agree on something and then eventually put it into the wrapper. So that's not something you really suffer on development teams like at a company, because you might see them in person, or you're both employed by the same company, so you expect them to be there for 8 hours every day, right? So I think that's really the main difference.
As we're talking about work, you're now doing your second internship at Irdeto. Would you go back, and what's the culture like there?
Yeah, answering the first question, definitely I would go back. It's a great company. And that leads into the second question, is the culture. Irdeto is a Dutch company, and I feel like even though they're a 50-year-old company, their Dutch influence is still there, even though they're also like a global company. I really like that they value, and you can see it at the top level, C-level executives, they really do value like a work-life social balance. And I think that's really important for me, especially something that I've been realizing is I really do appreciate a good work-life balance. And on top of that, there's really challenging, cool work at Irdeto, so it keeps my drive going.
All right, so what are some of the projects you're actually working on there right now?
Yeah, so I'm on the team that's building a product for trains in Europe. So what we're doing essentially is we're securing the communication that flows through trains, just to make sure that no hacker is doing some funny business and they're not gonna divert the train somewhere else, etc.
That's really interesting because safety critical stuff is really, really important for various embedded applications. That's why we need more embedded developers, because the LRT isn't gonna fix itself.
So other than Irdeto, you've also worked at other companies before, including Blackberry QNX. Your story of how you scored your internship there back in 2018 is quite interesting. Can you tell us about how it worked and how did you get it?
Yeah, so it all started when I attended the SPAC networking conference. It's just an annual networking event hosted by the IEEE branch. So yeah, I was there as an attendee, not an organizer. I was there just, hanging out. We were having dinner, and then this cool fellow on the same table called Grant, he worked at Blackberry and he was one of the directors there. So I was like, okay, I'll talk to her for half an hour over dinner. It was good food, by the way. So we just chatted a bit about what they do there. And then I was like, wow, that's really cool. They work on some neat stuff. They create like a real-time operating system for critical applications like autonomous cars or nuclear power plants in Russia. So I was like, yeah, that's pretty neat. So our conversation went well. We exchanged some information afterwards, and then I started my interview process shortly after, and then eventually ended up getting a co-op.
Weren't you nervous? You just mentioned like, all right, let's just start talking to him. Essentially, it was your way of networking with him, and I know that it can be super stressful when you think of it that way. I mean, how did you stay so calm and casual about it?
Yeah, I think it was my first networking event actually, and I was definitely not as calm as I sound like I'm portraying it now. I was definitely a bit nervous, but I think the food was kind of distracting me from my nervousness. So I think that was a good composure activity. And then I don't know. I guess I was putting in my mind that, you know what, he's just a regular person like me. He was in my shoes at some point. It helps to humanize, employers, right? Sometimes all we have in our heads like, oh my god, he's the gateway to me getting a job or not. But like, you just have to remember that they're humans as well. They have the same interests, passions, goals as you, and I think that helps when you talk to them and building a genuine connection.
So during your interview process, you mentioned how you answered 60% of the questions wrong during the Blackberry QNX interview. And later on, you asked your manager, like, hey, why did you hire me? And I remember this story that you said because you mentioned this the night before SPAC to me. And I was wondering, like, what did they say and what did you learn from your manager's response?
Yeah, I really did get most of the questions. Well, most of them I just said, I don't know. Like, they asked me questions. I was like, I have no idea. And yeah, that's why I was really confused why I got the job. And then once I was at the job and, 2 months in, I talked to my manager that actually interviewed me. And I was like, hey, listen, like, just looking back at my interview, like, why did I get it? Am I being too insecure? And then he was like, okay, listen, Ahmed, like, you're a co-op. It's your first co-op. I'm not expecting you to be some programmer genius. I'm just expecting you to have the drive to learn, the curiosity to learn, and you have the fundamentals. That's it. He was just looking for the fundamentals. He didn't care that I didn't know some obscure thing in the kernel of Linux. He just wanted me to have the fundamentals and the drive. And you'll see, like, as high schoolers going into university, that your co-op is about you learning, and your employers know that. So if you're ever asked a question in an interview that you don't know, just say, I don't know. Be honest.
So you started as a unit tester at QNX, and then your second term was your main role, which is a software developer. So what were some of the differences between the two roles, and how was your experience overall at QNX?
I think the differences between the two roles was because, they're different semesters, and the second semester I had more experience coming back. I think they definitely had a bit more expectations of me, even though I was a co-op. They knew I was a senior co-op, right? But other than that, I think it was more or less the same. Even as a unit tester in my first half of my co-op, I was still learning a lot because, again, like, I was on a team that was writing the real-time operating system for critical applications. So as a unit tester, you had to kind of be like a safety inspector in a way. I had to understand the intricacies of the operating system, what would happen when things go wrong, if for me to write real safe tests, right? And I still applied that methodology in my second co-op when I was actually writing parts of the operating system.
Yeah, that's actually awesome to hear, because I find that operating system applications are so hard to develop, and going from like a testing role to a developer role is probably a huge leap. But I think QNX made it seem like a little bit more seamless, right? It wasn't like too much of a jump.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a good transition. I definitely felt the same at the beginning. I was like, oh my god, am I gonna be able to do this? And they're really good people. My mentor was amazing. He really helped me. So yeah, no, I never felt that I was overwhelmed beyond control.
And before Irdeto, you worked at Espial, which is now called Eng House, and then of course Blackberry QNX. So I just want to ask you, what's the contrast and the differences between the different cultures at each of these companies? Is there any comparison you want to make?
Yeah, there's definitely like clear differences that come to my mind. So Irdeto, as we've spoken before, I think they top my list in work-life balance. I feel like they definitely emphasize that, and they have a lot of events on that, which is, really nice for me. I like it. So Espial, it was a smaller company, and I really liked that aspect because it kind of felt like a small family in a way. It was like only 40, 50 people in the office at the time, and then I just liked that. I just liked the concept of having a small company, working for a small company, that family tight-knit aspect. And then Blackberry is it is interesting working at a mature late-stage company. You get to see how they operate their day-to-day activities, what their long-term goals are, what a big corporate's goals are. I think those are the big differences that jump out to me.
That's awesome that you're talking about the culture at these types of companies, because I know a lot of these companies are like mid-sized range. And I want to contrast the difference to the top high-tier FAANG companies, right? And these are, for those of you who don't know what FAANG is, it's an acronym for the top 5 tech companies that everyone wants to get into. So it's Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. But Ahmed, you're a little bit different. I always think that you are probably the most capable person of going into FAANG. Like, I think you're the perfect person to go into it. But you have voiced your concern that you don't think that you see yourself working at FAANG. Can you explain to us your opinion on FAANG and why you don't really favor of yourself going into these top influential companies?
Just to start with, there's absolutely nothing wrong with these companies. They're absolutely amazing. They have amazing tech. They obviously have great benefits, and that's what usually attracts everyone to them. But like you highlighted, Rafid, is I don't really see myself working there, and that's for a very specific reason, and it's because their work is not what I'm interested in, and you'll see that that's what a lot of people really are, but they kind of forget that and just want the benefits, and that's why I kind of have a weird stance with FAANG, is I want people to understand that you can have a better experience at a company that's not part of FAANG, right? Like if you're someone that wants to do, for example, embedded applications, or you want to do e-commerce stuff, like maybe going to Shopify is better if you want e-commerce stuff, right? You shouldn't go to Google for the sake of going to Google, because that's something that I've just noticed in a lot of people. Is like, oh, I want to go to Google because then maybe I could just put it on my resume and brag to my friends. And personally, I just feel like that's not the right reason for going to a company, right? Because I can guarantee you that there are people that went to Google and regret that they went to Google, as outrageous as that sounds. So yeah, that's my stance on FAANG, is if they do the things that your passion lies there, by all means, apply there. If they don't, then please don't put in your mind that you're a failure or you're not living your life if you're not going to FAANG. You can find more fulfilling experiences elsewhere.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot of these students who want to go into FAANG because of 1, the salary, and 2, just to have clout over their friends. Those are the only 2 reasons why I see most people want to go into FAANG. And I realized even I was one of those types of people, back in 1st and 2nd year, and even in 3rd year for some time. But then afterwards, I realized that if I'm not liking the product, or if I don't feel like I'm giving my 100% effort into something that I enjoy, what's the point of me going into that? And I just want to reiterate, a lot of these FAANG companies, right? The reason why they're so big and they're so powerful is because they do over 50 acquisitions in total of all these unicorn startup companies, and that's why they've developed themselves to be that big. So it's really hard to know which areas within FAANG is actually the innovative front of the line, like really interesting work, or if you're just gonna be put onto like testing or something like that. But yeah, I honestly think that like a lot of people overlook this because there's a lot of mid-tier companies, especially hardware companies, that support FAANG applications, right? Because software doesn't run in thin air.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like to point that out here. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. And Ahmed, do you feel like I know that like some people come up with the concept of Cali or bust. Do you have any?
Every time I hear that being uttered, I just laugh. I'm like, because I see people say it like legitimately, non-ironically, and I'm like, why? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, it's just that's the thing that I'm talking about that I don't like is that why is it Cali or bust? Right? Why is it that if you don't land in FAANG, then you're a worthless person? That's what this is implying, right? It's implying that if you can't get there, then you're busting. That means you're doing nothing, which I think is toxic, right? Like, it should be more like Cali or do things that I like, which is totally fine, right? Like, it really shouldn't be Cali or bust. So
yeah,
I absolutely agree. For me, I was never the type to just pick a company just because everybody else was picking it, but I did feel FOMO because it did feel like because I wasn't striving towards FAANG, that I was a failure, that I was missing out on something. So I like that you brought up that point. I think it's a good reminder for
I feel that too.
That it's not just about the 5 top tech companies just because everybody else is doing it. You gotta have your own reason for pursuing that goal.
And I know like a lot of high schoolers who are interested in tech are focusing on just FAANG, and they're probably thinking that we're being like sort of losers about it. But I'm just saying, like, when you get into like more experience, like years, like 3rd year and 4th year, you'll start to realize that maybe FAANG might not be the place for you because that's not where your passions lies, and that's completely okay. And like I said, I think Ahmed has all the capabilities to get into FAANG, but he chooses like to do more embedded stuff, and you wanna know what? He's loving it. He's doing great work at Irdeto, like working on an impact project. And I think that that like we should think about the same for all these other mid-sized companies as well. They're all doing great things, and they're not hiring you for nothing.
Exactly. And even the people who do work at those big tech companies, it's not like they're staying there forever, like they're staying there for 3 years and then moving on to the next one. So it's not just the ultimate goal and that there's nothing else after that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You mentioned that you think the tech field has a lot of potential for adding real value into the world by solving real problems. Do you have concrete examples or experiences where you were able to add value to the world as someone who is a part of the tech field?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just reference the most recent experiences, like, currently at Irdeto, as we talked, we said, like, my product is securing trains, right? And, just by virtue of me, working, making that product more secure and, keeping hackers out, etc., like, I'm making sure that unwanted harm is kept at bay, right? I'm making sure that trains don't get destroyed or people might not get harmed, etc. And I think that's real value, right? Like, even though you're just writing code or you're kind of removed from that aspect, you're still putting value in the world. And other than my experiences, there's a lot of room for adding value in the world. Like, you can be working at a charity foundation that developing their website or their services that helps people in need, right? So just like, I don't know, GoFundMe or whatever, right? You're helping people get money easily. So there's a lot of opportunities to add value in the world, and that's, again, like, find your passion and see where you can add value in the world.
Do you see yourself changing careers every once in a while, or staying at like one place for a really long time?
I don't think like I see it like as one or the other. I feel like my approach is kind of like a hybrid. I'm like, okay, if I feel like I'm being challenged, if I feel like I'm still moving up, I'm still benefiting from being at a company, then I don't want to artificially cap it just so I can, again, move with the herd. Like, every 3 years you should move. I'm totally fine with that as long as, it benefits me. But for example, I could be in a situation where my current company would give me more value than moving to another company, and I wouldn't want to move just for the sake of moving, if you get what I'm saying. So yeah, no, I'm again just a hybrid. As long as I'm getting value, I'm totally fine with staying at a company.
Now, since we've talked a little bit about you, Ahmed, we want to know the real you. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to play a little game here. And Doreen, I'm going to be timing you, and Doreen is going to be asking questions. And you only have 5 seconds to answer each question. Are you ready?
Okay, this is going to be fun, yeah. Okay.
There are 8 questions. It should be fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
All right. First question. You have 3 cats. Which one is your favorite?
Fraz, the male cat.
What's the weirdest thing in your room right now?
Fraz, the male cat.
Who's your favorite sibling out of the 2?
My brother.
Ouch.
Hater.
Your sister.
Don't show this to my sister.
Vanilla ice cream or chocolate ice cream?
Chocolate.
What's at the top of your bucket list right now?
To get the coronavirus vaccine.
Oh, that's ambitious.
Oh my god. Damn, Ahmed, you how are you able to answer all those questions within 5 seconds? You're a genius. He saw this coming.
Improvise, adapt, overcome.
What's your favorite Netflix show?
The Good Place.
What's the newest skill you've learned?
Investment banking.
Last question. What's your best moment of your IEEE journey?
Wow.
Yeah, I knew
that was
one
a difficult one.
Oh, wow.
Ha! Time's up.
Yeah.
Wow, this is one that needs like sleeping over. No, I'm kidding.
What is it, actually?
Best moment. I would say probably when I was at Battle Royale, when I was like during the day, seeing everyone happy and, raising money for charity and it being a success. I just felt that, like all my efforts were worth it because the planning was really stressful and late. And just to see that it still pulled through, I think that was like a really good rush of euphoria.
Yeah, I definitely know that feeling. I think my favorite moment from my IEEE was SPAC, like my first SPAC. Like,
yeah,
that was easily like my favorite. Like, I don't know, there was something that was in that team, Ahmed. Like, you were on it. It was really special to me. Like, I think that whole team chemistry was just amazing.
I kind of agree. I thought it was super. I agree. Fun. Yeah, that was the last one. Thank you for playing.
Thank you.
So now that we had a little fun, we're going to be talking a little bit about outside of engineering, right? So we know that like you have a minor in math and philosophy, and you really write some awesome articles on LinkedIn, especially on using Medium, and you also write some articles at school. Can you talk a little bit about your articles?
Yeah, I mostly focus on philosophy articles, and they're not really like in a specific category of philosophy. I feel like it's just kind of what I'm kind of experiencing, what I feel like I can address appropriately. I have the knowledge to address it. I'm kind of trying to also add to my writing categories some tech articles. So I'm trying to write some articles for web development, pass on some information to people.
Why did you decide to do Phil?
Yeah, I decided to take a minor in philosophy because I feel like, learning, you're never done learning until you die, as morbid as that sounds. But I think philosophy specifically, because it's the study of life, I feel like I want that. I want to understand, why people experience certain things. Like, what's the state of our world? Because, I'm just one person and I'm one specific kind of copy of a person. So I feel like philosophy helps me understand different viewpoints.
Do you think philosophy has helped you in your career or your personal development?
Yeah, it's not like a huge impact already, but I'm sure like it's kind of like an investment. I feel like, it will definitely be helping me later on in life as well. But yeah, like again, like just like it relates back to my answer of the previous question, is that it helps me see other people's viewpoints, and if I can connect with other people, then I'm more likely to succeed in my career.
What about writing? What does it mean to you, and why do you write?
Yeah, I honestly write because, first of all, I think it's a relief. I like, when I'm thinking about some topic, I like putting it on paper, or, more 21st century, I like putting it on my laptop, Word document. It's, I think it helps me understand my thoughts more. And I feel like at the same time, I can also like engage other people on a specific topic that might not be talked about a lot. So I think that's what writing is to me. It's understanding my thoughts, and also at the same time helping other people maybe understand something they're going through.
So what's your writing process look like, and how do you really choose a topic in the first place?
Yeah, so my writing process is, you know what, maybe I'll address how I choose my topic first because it's more relevant. How I choose my topic is, it's a mix of what am I strongly opinionated on and what I feel like also needs addressing, right? Like I feel like if there's, especially like in the current political climate. So for example, I wrote an article on the wealth distribution by race recently, and I felt that was very relevant in the current political climate because, with all the protests in the US and also, spreading to the worldwide about racial injustice, right? So that's how I usually choose my article. And then back to my writing process. So once I do have an article at hand I want to write, I try to start with like some drafts, write a couple of paragraphs and maybe write an outline as well, see how I'm thinking of it on a high level. And then after I've written that, understand my motivation and what I'm trying to deliver to the reader. And then after that, I just write the whole thing and publish it.
What's your favorite article so far?
That I've written? I would say it's the wealth distribution by race one, actually. Because I feel like it made me actually understand something that I didn't know was a thing. Right, like one of the conclusions that I got out of it was that in America, for example, white families have 7 times the net worth of black families, and that was kind of really shocking for me. Is like, wow, I never expected it to be that bad. So I like articles that make me, in awe like that. Like after writing that article, I was like, wow, okay, like
it was crazy.
That's really bad.
Yeah, it really was. That was actually good insight because. When I read it, I didn't realize that. Oh my god, it is actually like that.
Mm-hmm. I also had a question about well, not a question, but more so a comment. I always find that for writing, you have to be in like deep emotion to actually write well. And I found like whenever I'm experiencing some kind of emotion, and I even like seen like some even psychologists talk about like your hormones actually dictate of how well you write actually at certain times. So do you feel it's the same for you? Do you write well with emotion? Because for me, I find it the case when I'm writing my book right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Writing is very emotion connected. You're 100% right. I feel like, again, like when I feel really strongly about a topic, I write really well. It comes back even to like developing. You have to have a passion to develop properly, right? It's the same thing with writing. If you're writing something that you're not emotionally attached to or you're not driven, then you're not going to write it right. So I definitely find it emotion-based, yes.
You talked about one of the underlying motivations for doing something is leaving an impact. What impact do you hope to leave in the world?
In general, I would like to help with systemic changes. That's like the way I look at changes is there's individual changes and then there's systemic changes. Unfortunately, individual changes don't have a lasting impact, right? Like if, for example, you helped someone and then they didn't perpetuate it, then that was an individual help, right? So like your assistance kind of died off there. But what I want to contribute to is I want to contribute to something that can live on even after I'm gone, right? I want to, help, reform some structures that are oppressive, just like in our world. Because I feel like that's something that will keep going and going and going for eternity.
Last question. What are you looking forward to the most this year?
Honestly, I'm really looking forward to hopefully a vaccine being approved and given to everyone. I'm sure like a lot of people were having coronavirus fatigue. It's really draining just being at home for months and months at a time. So I'm hoping that we'll have a vaccine available at the end of the year.
Do you have any advice or last words for our audience?
So for last words, I would say, based on all of our discussions is, again, comes back to that slogan, always comes back to that slogan, never settle. I think that can be like the two words that if you want to remember out of this podcast is remember them is never settle. Always make sure that you're insecure, but not in the way that you're thinking, in the way that you're always striving for more. You're always insecure of your knowledge, so you learn more. You're always insecure of your goals, so you always aim for higher. Because I think with that mentality, you will, shoot for the stars.
Good advice. Very motivational. That needs to be on a shirt. Thank you, Ahmed, for being our second guest on the show. You've touched on a lot of good points, like stress management. That's a lifelong skill, I find. I mean, even your tips on investments that students can look into. I found your take on interviews about being honest and just showing genuine interest is a good lesson to keep in mind. Also, the way you explained your stance on passion versus following the crowd in terms of FAANG is a good refresher for anyone feeling conflicted. And of course, thank you for sharing your views on life through philosophy as well as your writing process. To the audience, do check out his articles on Medium. They're very interesting and very insightful for anyone.
Thank you, Dorina and Rafid.
No worries. Make sure to check out Ahmed Sakr on Instagram. His handle is AJSakr97. And on LinkedIn as Ahmed J. Sakr as well, which will all be in the description below.
And make sure to follow us, Capital Interns, on IG, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Capital Interns. We have a contest going on right now. We're doing an Amazon gift card giveaway, so check out our socials for more details. And you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts at Capital Interns, as well as on YouTube.
The next intern on the panel will be a very committed student in the health and wellness community within kinesiology and exercise at Queen's University, and has worked at several centers since high school. Stay tuned for a one-on-one chat as we delve into their career, university life, and high school experience. Till next time. Bye.
Come on,
Bye.
man. Nobody's forcing you to leave, Wiping your slate clean ain't so easy. You see what I mean?